That this okay.
Okay, the Rules Committee will come to order. And before I entertain a motion from the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Perlmutter, I want to make note of the fact that I listened to what he has to say, and I know he was offended by my New England Patriots mask, and so I'm now wearing a Boston Bruins mask. So, but I may go back to Patriots in the not-too-distant future. But anyway, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion from the distinguished gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Perlmutter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee grant a rule providing for consideration of the Senate amendments to House Resolution H.R. 6172, the USA Freedom Reauthorization Act of 2020. The rule makes in order a single motion offered by the chair of the committee on the judiciary or his designee that the House concur in the Senate amendments. The rule waives all points of order against consideration of the motion and provides that it shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question. The rule provides that the Senate amendments and the motion shall be considered as read. The rule provides 1 hour of debate on the motion equally divided among and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on the Judiciary and the chair and ranking minority member of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The rule provides that any motion pursuant to Clause 4 of Rule 22 relating to H.R. 6172 may be offered only by the majority leader or his designee. Finally, the rule provides that if a veto message is laid before the House on H.J. Res. 76, then after the message is read, further consideration of the veto message and the joint resolution shall be postponed until the legislative day of Wednesday, July 1st, 2020. And on that legislative day, the House shall proceed to reconsideration and dispose of such question without intervening motion.
Thank you. And before I turn to the ranking member Cole for any motions or comments that he may wish to make, let me start by explaining the rule a little bit, if I can. So we were asked by leadership to take up what some see as a very critical bill. I personally oppose the bill, and I will vote against it on the House floor. And let me tell you why. I oppose the original Patriot Act and have opposed subsequent reauthorizations of these provisions because I believe they have compromised our fundamental right to privacy. And every day we ask Americans to choose between their right to privacy and a false sense of security. That's not a choice we should have to make. Nobody in America should have to give up their constitutional rights to feel secure. There is a better way to do this, and I know that this bill contains some reforms and that they are positive, but quite frankly, not enough to make me feel comfortable. So having said all of that, it is this committee's job to advance legislation to the floor, where we'll have a debate and people can vote how they see fit. The FISA bill we passed in the House got the support from over 2/3 of our members. I did not support it. The Senate strengthened the bill with the Leahy-Lee amendment. Again, not strong enough for me, but I appreciate some of those reforms. 80% of the senators supported it. We are being asked to give the House the opportunity to have a straight up or down vote. If it passes, it goes directly to the president. He can veto it or not. He says he wants Republicans to vote against it. His Attorney General says people should oppose it because it doesn't give him enough powers to surveil people. And so I don't know what the president will do. This is not the first time he's tweeted against a bill and then the next day come out and said he would support it. But whatever, it will be in his hands on how we proceed. Look, I've said many times that I oppose the bill, but let's be clear, this is a serious matter. And the way the president deals with serious matters is very troubling to me. Late-night tweets are not the way we should govern, but I'll leave it at that. At this point, you have heard the motion from the gentleman from Colorado. Is there any amendment or discussion? Mr. Cole.
Thank you very much. First, let me make a couple of comments to my good friend from Colorado, Mr. Perlmutter. I note while it's the Boston Bruins that you've got, it is black and gold. That's quite a concession to somebody from Colorado. So I thought very generous of you, Chairman. I just want to state for the record, I will never wear black and gold since Colorado deserted the Big 12 to go to the Pac-10.
I'm getting soft in my
You're a very generous person.
It's now the Pac-12.
Yeah. And now let me also observe that I appreciate the way you've handled this. It's a difficult situation. I think it is difficult because I actually think the bill that's before us is better than what we've seen before, but I don't think it's going to succeed legislatively this time. And in that sense, I would prefer that we pull back, but the majority wants to go ahead. They're certainly within their rights to do so. So I will endeavor to try and improve the bill a little bit, Mr. Chairman, by offering the following amendment. I move that the committee make and order amendment number 2 by Mr. Gosar of Arizona to the Senate amendments in H.R. 6172. The amendment requires the Attorney General to disclose each time a person associated with a candidate for president of a major party, as defined by the IRS Code, is under FISA surveillance to the majority and minority leadership of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Political candidates and the Americans who work on campaigns should never have to worry about infringements on their constitutional rights and civil liberties, regardless of what party or candidate one is associated with. This common sense amendment reforms FISA oversight by modifying Section 601A of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, which outlines the Attorney General's semi-annual report to Congress regarding actions taken under FISA. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment because it bolsters oversight, ensures that the leaders in both chambers of Congress are aware when candidates and campaign workers of their party have been targeted with FISA order. Therefore, Republicans and Democrats can raise concerns with the Department of Justice when there's a clear abuse of FISA that questions the integrity of our elections and democratic processes. And I suggest this would actually probably make the bill itself more acceptable to the White House in its current form. So with that, Mr. Chairman, yield back.
Thank you very much. You've heard the member from the gentleman from Oklahoma. Is there any comment or discussion? Hearing none, the vote is on the Cole Amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd request the yeas and nays.
Yeas and nays have been requested. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Hastings. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, no. Mr. Perlmutter. Mr. Perlmutter, no. Mr. Raskin.
No.
Mr. Raskin, no. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, no. Ms. Shalala. Ms. Shalala, no. Ms. Matsui. Ms. Matsui, no. Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Cole, aye. Mr. Woodall. Aye. Mr. Woodall, aye. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, aye. Mrs. Lesko. Mrs. Lesko, aye. Mr. Chairman.
No.
Mr. Chairman, no.
Clerk report the total.
4 yeas, 8 nays.
Amendment is not agreed to. Are there further amendments or discussion? Hearing none, the vote is now on the motion from the gentleman from Colorado. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Request the yeas and nays, Mr. Chairman.
Yeas and nays have been requested. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Hastings. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Mr. Perlmutter. Mr. Perlmutter, aye. Mr. Raskin.
Aye.
Mr. Raskin, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Ms. Shalala. Ms. Shalala, aye. Ms. Matsui. Ms. Matsui, aye. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Woodall. Mr. Woodall, no. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, no. Mrs. Lesko. Mrs. Lesko, no. Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
Clerk report the total.
8 yeas, 4 nays.
And the motion is agreed to. Accordingly, I picked a short straw, so I will manage it for the majority.
And the distinguished lady from Arizona, and Ms. Lesko, will manage for the Republicans.
Thank you very much. And let me just again thank everybody, particularly the staff on both sides, for their cooperation in our virtual hearing today. Obviously, there were a few glitches. Mrs. Lesko pointed out some of them, and I think we need to work on that. Again, I'm hoping that that there will be few times that we will ever have to do that, but I think we need to. I think we have to go through one more round under our rules before we are ready to even do a markup virtually. But we want to make sure that it is right and that the technology is right. And as wonderful as this place is, what we're learning is that if multiple people are in the same room together, that the connections are not don't work as well as if you're isolated in a room all by yourself. So we have to work some of these glitches out. But I do appreciate people's cooperation. And it's great to see everybody in person, and I'm glad everybody's doing well. And with that, without objection, the committee is adjourned.